Christopher. Welcome to the Week in Advance. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, David? It's definitely a new, fresh, vibrant feeling. We've got that progression of the sun into Pisces, and it seems like things are starting to feel very Piscean, very watery, and kind of comfortable all of a sudden.
Yeah, I really feel the Pisces vibe coming in. It's just all about letting go and really just flowing nice. And especially, we're seeing the nodes come at the cusps of the Scorpio Libra energy and bounce in and out. And that's so exciting because this really is a big page turner in our lives. And of course, I would think that the universe would wait till this Pisces season and the sun getting close to Neptune, which we're going to talk about this week, to bring that new page turner in.
Yeah, I think the nodal activity is definitely going to have a strong imprint on people's attitudes. I think it's going to affect our culture with the masses, and it's going to, I think, lighten everybody up. I think the Scorpio-Taurus polarity, this axis we've been dealing with for the last couple of years, has just become so intense with this karmic undertow, all of these different energies that were built up over who knows how many incarnations and moon cycles, etc. It's finally ready to flip into an air-fire vibration now, and I think that's going to definitely lighten everybody's mood.
Yeah, I think this is a saving grace, especially because we're in a Pluto-Uranus square. You know, that's a very tense, long-term angle that we're all going through, one that was around during the Great Depression, even though this one is a little bit different because Pluto's in Capricorn, not Cancer. But having the node switch really does help us bring this fire and air to the equation, which will dry things out, which is almost like the new there. And Libra is a sign of peace and harmony. And if you want to go even more esoteric, sunset. It's the energy of sunset. It's that energy of, you know, especially if you kind of go backwards, now we're going to be on the upper half of the astrology chart as the North Node's going to go through Libra, and all of these great signs that have to do with basically the sun being at its peak energy. So I think we have come out of a very deep cycle that, if you notice the way that the 2012 cycle happened, even though you step into December 21st, 2012, there are all these other cycles that keep hitting us, one after the other, and every, you know, 5-6 months or so, we keep getting this, okay, finally that one's let go, and then finally this one's letting go. And this one is one of those ones that I think will finally start to break us a little bit more free in our feeling, even though there is this tension still around of a Pluto-Uranus square. I think this adds to going with the flow a little bit better, you know?
Exactly. Well, one of the things that has been happening with Saturn has been advancing through Scorpio and has gotten out of that position where it was feeding a lot of Saturnian energy into both Pluto as well as Uranus. So that additional level of stress is going to really lighten up. We're going to finally see, you know, even though Saturn will ultimately retrograde before too much longer, it's not going to be the key player that it was last year and the year before. So again, a lot of the tension is starting to lighten up, and I think a lot of lessons have been learned. You know, as we're starting out this week, we have the 21st here, Friday. We have that Moon-Saturn conjunction going on. The Moon is moving across Saturn and kind of pulling away from that melancholy, that darkness, the dark night of the soul energy. As the Moon progresses into Sagittarius and then catches up with Pluto, I think we're going to see a much airier and a much more adaptable kind of energy start to spread out. Because Saturn really is very rigid in a lot of its interactions in the charts. So we're going to see that rigidity start to really diminish.
Yeah, I'm excited for us to get through this tail end of the week into this weekend, because it really is leading towards that Sun-Neptune conjunction that happens in Pisces. And the moon getting out of Scorpio and crossing over Saturn will be kind of like a nice release, I feel, at the end as we step into that Friday evening and into the weekend, where the moon comes into Sagittarius and starts to make its three-quarter square, and it's going to be a powerful one because the sun will be next to Neptune, the moon there in Sagittarius. I'll be honest, it can be a little bit lost, but I think it's a good energy. I think there's a lot to observe. I think there's a lot of places to explore in our fantasies and our conscious realms, and try to be aware of maybe unconscious self, issues we might be having. This is really one of those weekends where the energy is intense, it's powerful, but at the same time it's subtle because it's within yourself, it's deep within yourself, and it's I think there's a message coming from the other side for us all this weekend, a lesson too.
No, absolutely. One of the things that I have noticed is that this previous week I had mentioned that activity of Mercury being retrograde and the sun advancing forward, and the two of them connecting in what I call a combust. And it seemed like this Mercury retrograde had been somewhat benign until we had that actual activity. So when you have a planet going backwards and the sun moving forward, it isn't like a gentle passage. It's almost like a collision in some ways. And that combust released a lot of energy. A lot of people had meltdowns with technology. Their computer went crazy, things like that. Other people had real communication issues. And it was feeding into that Piscean energy because the sun was headed, in the direction of number one, Pisces, number two, nailing Neptune. So as we see the after effects of this activity, this interaction between Mercury, the sun, and how the sun has left an imprint and has pulled energy into that mercurial area, now we're going to see things finally slow down. And Mercury is going to get ready to go direct before too much longer, thank God. And we're going to see the sun position itself first on that region of Neptune in Pisces, and it'll be coming up and gently reaching out toward Chiron as we have the sun-moon conjunction on the horizon.
I think you put it excellent. This Mercury retrograde is going to be a big signal to what's happening, because we have a new moon at the end of next week on the 28th of February, the end of the month. And this is going to be a very powerful week that comes after that, with Mercury going direct and all these other things that we could talk about. But really, I think it's important for us to focus on what this is about, which I think this is a very big pausing moment in our lives, of rearranging, of becoming aware, especially Sun on Neptune this weekend that comes up. There's things to try and consciously connect with deep inside of ourselves. And a Mercury starting to pause in Aquarius, especially as it it squares Saturn still. There's these things that I think we need to uncover still that are deep, because there's this huge launching pad coming in a week. And I think that it's so important for us to get, everything prepared. It's almost like a week of packing before the trip, packing your awareness, packing what's going on deep inside of yourself, packing your epiphanies too. Like, what are these great ideas you have? And are they in alignment with maybe the path you want to take in your life? This is also going to be one of the last weeks that Venus is going to be in Capricorn. Venus is going to start picking up its speed here, and it's going to dart out of Capricorn that first week of March. So there's been so many things to look at in what we're valuing in relationships, and I think this has been kind of a weird period we've gone through as the beginning of the year. But the spring is around the corner, or the fall for those that are on the other side. We don't forget about you. And so there's a big shift that's coming, and I think that this is a week to really prep for a lot of these big things that are coming our way.
Yeah, this is definitely a period to have that greater vision and to look at what the equinox is going to be holding for all of us, whether it's the autumnal or the spring equinox. The other thing that I am looking at is the activity of Mars in Libra, because Mars is coming up to that stationary position as it gets ready to experience its retrograde. And it's going to be kind of interesting watching how Venus is accelerating, as you said, into Aquarius, and then we're going to ultimately, as Mars starts going backwards, we're going to have a Venus-Mars interaction in a couple of weeks here that could be a pivotal point in a lot of relationships, because all of a sudden, a lot of the blocked energy that Venus was experiencing when it was retrograde is going to be released, and now the Mars, the masculine side, is going to have to do some internal work and look for its blockages. So again, we've got this kind of an interesting buildup of energy that's opening doors for us and causing us to look within ourselves and discover the Venus region of our own consciousness, the Mars region of our own consciousness, and really, really refine those areas of how we're expressing life and how we're interacting with people around us.
Yeah, and this has to do with people around us, Mars and Libra, and how our connections in our life, and Venus coming out of a big, shadow retrograde. Once Venus hits 28 degrees, we can finally say we're out of that stuff, and that's still a week away. So I think there's so much this week that has to do with decisions in our life, that has to do with arranging for the right moves. There's a lot of actions to take. And it's really about action. That North Node, as it's coming into Libra, is already making a conjunction to Mars. So this really signals that the universe, I would say, is saying, hey, pay attention to this. And this is the diplomatic part of ourselves. Even though Mars is not in a warrior state in Libra, we still have to learn to take action, and whether it's a diplomatic way. And I think it's important for us to look at what are the situations that we can take action with. There's things to move forward in, and they can bring us lots of peace and inner balance. And I think the message of what we're going to see here throughout a lot of this year is going to be finding that inner peace, finding that inner balance. And I think that's kind of the signal of this week is, are you sure everything in your life is in that inner peace place? Especially, that's what Pisces is all about. Pisces and Libra are actually very similar. And I think they're very similar in the way of finding peace, finding harmony, finding a deeper meaning too, and outside of yourself. We're in a realm now where, especially with the South Node coming in Aries, and especially if you just look around at everything, I think it's important for us to connect to our true selves, an inner meaning of self, a higher calling to yourself, and to find, how you can relate with different groups, different people, and how do you connect with the collective conscious, because really that's what Pisces is about. And to have Neptune here is really bringing together that collective conscious in a very big and powerful way. But where do you fit in there? That's what I think Mercury's trying to find in Aquarius is, that Aquarius energy is the group. It is where you fit in society. And I think there's a lot of questions of where we all fit in this one, where we all fit in this collective conscious state, and how do we vibe well, and how do we not push an ego, but push a self that relates with others so well.
Well, absolutely. And then in addition to that, we've got all this activity of, once again, Chiron coming into play. Chiron is the planet or the asteroid, or however you want to define it, that really calls upon us to surrender our own pain, to surrender our own fear, to surrender our unhappiness. And Jupiter has been really tugging at that 10-degree point where it's been setting for a few days now on Chiron in Pisces at 12 degrees. And so as we're watching the sun move forward and Jupiter getting ready to start to advance as it goes direct, we're really going to get like that final burst of release energy that Chiron has been trying to identify and surrender. And I think, again, the important word here is surrender, because it's not something that you consciously, actively extract from yourself. You allow yourself to slide into that space where you can be healed in the deepest sense of the word.
That's exactly what the universe is pointing everything towards. That no matter, we could talk about Mars retrograding, we could talk about, all these different things in a chart and ego and all that, but I think the deeper meaning is surrender, surrender to a higher calling. And I think that that's what these times are, is starting to see if you can align your life to where you could float down river and not have to work so hard and not have to be stressed so much and not have to be so, overworked. Neptune is in Pisces, and I think that shows that this is where we must connect. It's not about this reality. There needs to be fantasy again on this planet. This planet, I think, believe it or not, if we kind of want to go way out there, has seen much more magic. And I think that it's important for that magic to come back on the planet, in all of our lives, in society. And I think there's a calling in all of us now to have more of our inner creative outlet out, to see music thrive, to see art thrive, to see, things that deal with a higher state of consciousness come out. And that's what this is all about on the deepest level, is trying to connect the world with that. And I think that's a big reminder this week. And when you're preparing for where to take your life, that you pick a road that maybe might not give you so much control as the way you think control is, but putting the control seat with the universe in command and letting yourself accept that and surrender to that and realize that the reason why you want the universe driving is so that you can be playing in the back. So you don't have to be doing the work driving everywhere.
Well, that's definitely a big part of it. And there's also the expanded awareness as we tap into the universe. You really don't know what the bigger picture is. You're down here in your little Aries zone of, the ego-based perception of reality around you. And in reality, the true part of you, your true nature, which unfortunately is hidden from us, that part of the subconscious realm, is fully aware of where everybody is positioned and where all the balls on the table are, as far as like this magical pool game that's going on, and is aware of the consequence. If you hit, the 8 ball with the cue ball, it's going to go over and hit the 6 ball, and then that's going to hit the 12 ball, and so there is this huge dynamic that if we allow our higher self, our deeper self, more control, it is orchestrating this entire process. And then we're not pushing ourselves forward in a way where we're creating chaos, where we're just running across the pool table, bouncing off of everything. And I think that's really one of the most important lessons of Neptune in Pisces, is to bring us into the awareness that the more we allow the deeper part of ourselves to sustain control over our lives, the more we're able to act spontaneously in the moment and have fun with every moment of our existence.
Yeah, and that's Pisces. It's about having fun. It's the fish. I mean, I don't know what Pisces that takes everything too seriously. I've never met a Pisces that takes it too seriously, because they know that it's this beautiful aspect of the inner soul being able to be free. And I think Pisces also represents that state of true freedom. Even though I think Aquarius thinks freedom is free of restriction, I think Pisces represents and understands that, true freedom is the ability to go infinite and surrender into wherever that goes, because this universe is infinite and who knows where it will take you. And I think that, we try to intellectually figure that out with Aquarius, but I think the whole message is you don't maybe know exactly where that goes. You can have your signs, and it's an emotional knowing that I think in our lives that we need to go more with this emotional knowing. And that's what Jupiter in Cancer is about. And that's what Neptune in Pisces is about. And that's what Saturn in Scorpio is about. This is the grand trine of learning to go where who knows where to go but your own emotions. It might not logically make sense, but it will spiritually make sense. But I think once you get on that road, it then does start to make logical sense, if you see how that kind of picks up. That I think that you can't lead with your intellect first anymore. You have to lead with this emotional knowing and then have the mind follow that.
Exactly. We are seeing a societal shift for the last 500 years here on Turtle Island, with the invasion of the European colonists that came here, we had all this linear thinking. Prior to that, the tribal peoples on Turtle Island survived on intuition and on synthesizing the ability to analyze with the ability to feel experiences also. And for at least 300, I'm thinking more realistically like 500 years, we have had this onslaught of linear thinking that has been doing a huge amount of destruction and has not really paid a lot of attention to reclamation and restoration. As we are seeing, the Piscean thing happen with Neptune, you're seeing the Plutonian thing happen with Capricorn, and good old Saturn down there sitting in Scorpio. We are beginning to realize that linear thinking is not the answer. It's part of the equation, but it is not the answer, because in many ways it becomes very ruthless, and it consumes until nothing is left. And gluttony is no longer an acceptable attitude as we continue to populate the planet. I mean, it just isn't going to work. And we're seeing the planets align themselves to give us this very important message about how we should conduct our lives and how we should leave no lasting imprint on the earth. We want to be like a feather floating across the earth. That's really the direction that these planets are presenting to us.
Yes, a one feather. No, the whole thing is the old way is done, and I think we highlight that a little bit this week in ourselves, old systems, because the moon will come into Capricorn at Tuesday, Wednesday, and it will hump over in the middle of this cardinal cross. And boy, let me tell you, there's a cardinal cross forming, especially as Uranus and Jupiter are in a big square, and this deals with, outlets, I think, because I think Jupiter and Uranus are the two people, or the two planets that are about outlets, whether you outlet yourself through knowledge. And even Uranus is a very knowledgeable planet, but I think it's an outlet through, where you can disconnect from and reinvent. And these two are squaring, that there's many outlets in our life that want to pull us into these great, amazing directions that are more on target with what we want, more on target with better comfort levels. But there's this Pluto. There's this, I'm holding on to these old systems of control. And I think you're right. The linear thinking can sometimes really get us into thinking that we got control because we know logically. But that's going to screw you over. And I think this week you will start to be proven that. This could be one of those weeks where it just proves to you, even though it's very non-activity. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I think there's a bigger activity coming in the week after this. But it's trying to unveil to you what to pack and what not to pack so you get ready for your journey. And one thing not to pack is the feeling that you might logically know what's going to happen and that you're trying to control it all.
Right. And there's also that lag that we've got, that positioning of the moon moving into those final degrees before it does actually go new. It renews itself in Pisces. And so during the dark of the moon, a lot of the shell that we build up over the months or over the years has a potential to crystallize, and we're able to break out of that shell. And I think we're because of the proximity to Neptune during this renewal of the moon, we really can get rid of the old shells that we've been struggling with for a long, long time.
Yeah, and this is a dark moon in Aquarius, which will hump over Mercury retrograde. I don't even think we planned on talking about this thinking so much, but I think it is part of the process that in order for us to step into this new moon into Pisces that happens on Friday, which will be trining Jupiter, because as this week is happening, the Sun and Jupiter are starting to get along real nice. And I think that this is about the big explosion of really opening up a powerful door in our lives. But as it has this dark moon in Aquarius over Mercury retrograde, It's interesting that the moon and Mercury retrograde will meet before Mercury does go direct. And that really shows that emotionally there's a lot to process, but more importantly that there's this weird angle, because I think that Mercury retrograde in Aquarius stationary with a dark moon and, Aquarius on top really signifies this really weird look at ourselves in the darkness that we can purge, that we could let go of, that we could let go of in our heads, that our minds or our doubts can let go of, and we can have a big aha. I think that there's an aha right on Thursday, right before we step into this, so we can step forward. Or in some cases, for some people, like you have preached for many years, Mr. Onefeather, that people can really, you can see where they're at on that dark of the moon. Some people try and push really hard on a dark of the moon, and that just shows they're not really on target spiritually. They're not paying attention to the signs. And so I think in yourself, if you see yourself this week trying to push something forward, look at yourself in the mirror and go, you know what? Let me just see where this goes and wait till the end of this week. And trust, maybe trust Onefeather and I, or trust this process, because you might not want to trust it. Your mind might think, nope, I should have done this, or I should have done that, or maybe I should do this. But trust this process. Allow it all to just fall into place, because by this Friday and stepping into the week after this Friday, that first week, and of course it is Onefeather's birthday coming up, I might remind everybody, but it is one of the most amazing weeks in astrology I've ever seen in my life. And I'll put every bit of my stamp and approval on that.
Well, thank you, David. Yes, it's another millennium for Onefeather here, but I do think that this is a very powerful first day of March. It's going to be, I've always thought of, my birthday as being March 1st, and I've always associated that with getting the hell out of Egypt, marching into the Red Sea, crossing the great distance and parting the waters. And I think that we're all going to get kind of a taste of that as we do see all these planets align right around Neptune on the first day of March. And so during this dark of the moon, we do want to spend a certain amount of time in a personal retreat. And that doesn't mean you have to, pay a gazillion dollars to go up on top of a mountain and hang out with a swami or something. But, give yourself a 10 or 12 hour period, if you can, to just do some reflection, some contemplation, because we are going to be seeing a significant launch in new directions with the first day of March this year. So great fun and wonderful rejuvenation energy coming up for this.
Yeah, and it's exciting. And Saturn's basically stopping. It's going stationary this week because it goes retrograde on basically the 2nd, that next weekend. Then we're going to have Venus come out of Capricorn and go into Aquarius. We're going to have that Mercury going direct. We're going to have a new moon in Pisces with Jupiter trining. We're also going to have Jupiter come out of its retrograde and go direct. So, and then we have Mars goes retrograde. So every lever is being pulled, and everything is being shifted, and everything is being changed. And so if you're really trying to push something so hard for this week that we're talking about, the week before we come into March, I would look at yourself in the mirror and look at and see if you're really truly aligned with following the flow, or if you're trying to show the universe that you know what's best. And I would question that.
Absolutely. I would actually immediately alter that, because the universe does have momentum, and when you impact with that momentum, it can become somewhat dire. There's the old Chinese saying that you can never make the grass grow by tugging at it. You just have to be patient and allow it to come up at its own pace. So, shall we take a look at a couple of cards?
Yeah, and I just want to say one thing about the Chinese, the rice fields they do, same thing. Have you ever seen how they do those rice fields? I mean, it's no laughing matter. It takes a long time, and it's amazing. I think the Chinese proverbs that you bring up and their ability to really translate, like things like Confucius too. I mean, the beautiful aspect of nature and the allowing of the process to happen.
Yes, being in that state of flow. That is the most important gift you can give yourself, because number one, you're going to relieve all your stress. Number two, you're going to find that the river will take you to where you want to be. And number three, you're going to enjoy the scenery along the way. So what could be more optimal than that?
Yeah, because what's opposite of Pisces? Virgo, which is it could become a very worry-esque sign in the reality. And so we're opposite of that now.
Yeah, that's very true. Um,
Well, what did the cards
okay.
say?
Well, first card up, interesting. This is a great card for this week of build-up. We've got the Wheel of Fortune, and the wheel is spinning. And if you are in flow with the universe, if you're giving allowance for the karmic activity, getting rid of the old, bringing in the new, and allowing yourself to flow with change, which is really what this entire episode has been all about, then you're going to find that doors open for you in the weekend is going to be a very gracious opportunity to just relax, enjoy, and meet some new people and have some fun. The next card up is the Knight of Swords, and this I interpret as that activity of Mercury going direct, building up its energy to go direct. Because when you stop and think about it, if something is going retrograde, it has to slow down and then stop and then turn around. And we're going to really begin to see the effect of Mercury going into that state of stationary over the weekend as it prepares itself to advance and move forward. So a lot of lost communication from the last couple of weeks, I think, is going to show up over the weekend. The universe, the cards, are telling us that we're entering into a period here this next week where we do need to be patient and to practice our spiritual practices. This is a Four of Swords, and the Four of Swords is all about meditation, releasing the past, and coming to that place within where you're at a point of stillness and a point of giving allowance for, as Jesus said, the peace that passeth understanding. And that deep inner peace is available to you. Go on that mystical journey. Close your eyes for a while, and you will discover that the Spirit is always right there on the threshold, waiting to communicate to you in a personal way. This next week, it doesn't really look like there's going to be a lot of issues come up. This is the Six of Swords. Smooth sailing, invisible forces around you. So, again, this is a card that reminds us to invoke our angel guides, our animal guides, our, whatever spiritual modalities that you like to work with. If you want your guardian angels to show up, give them a call, reach out, say a prayer, and do that invocation, and they will glide you through this next week with ease. And then as we prepare to make this shift, as the sun and moon are getting ready to come to conjunction next Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're going to begin to see rewards and payoffs. The fruit is about to come into fruition on the vine. We've got the Seven of Pentacles. So we're getting very close to the big payoff. And if we've been doing our work in the appropriate way, we're going to see a huge amount of reward appear on the horizon.
Wow, those cards went perfect with what's going on. I think this weekend is definitely the excitement, that Wheel of Fortune, that Knight of Swords. The Knight of Swords is one of my favorite cards because it definitely means things are happening. And that Moon in Sagittarius over the weekend, squaring all that Pisces energy, can be a lot happening in our minds, in our fantasies, and you can really lose yourself in some powerful adventures, I think, this weekend. And I think this week, as things do calm down and the moon does slip into Capricorn and so forth, there is a lot to process. There's a lot of things to purge. And I think the cards played out perfectly on how, it is this week, I think, of the real dissolution. I think this weekend, though, definitely brings some fun and excitement. And then I think we get prepared for Friday where, wow, whatever you have planned for that next week and everything, there are some powerful things going down. And I think that's really cool. You know, I'm overwhelmed with what's going to happen on this horizon here.
And living in a state of anticipation, because in many ways this is like the delayed Christmas. You know, it's that kind of energy. What's inside the package? We've been waiting, and this could be our second Christmas event during this period of winter. So get ready to embrace that inner child and experience a wild abandon as you rip the paper off the packages and start playing with toys that Spirit is going to bring to you.
It's exactly that feeling. I've been waiting for this for a long time. The other thing I'm waiting for is Jupiter in Leo, but I'm a little biased because I'm a Leo. But, you know, I think this is also getting ready, and we didn't talk much about it. But Jupiter is going to be a big part of the story again soon. And this was probably one of the best Jupiter retrogrades I've ever felt. And I think that shows how well Jupiter does do in Cancer. You know, usually Jupiter retrogrades can get a little bit tiring, and they can be, you could be waiting for good things to happen. And this one delivered good news even in a retrograde. And I think what we're going to see out of this direct motion that comes here in the following weeks is a huge surge in all of our lives. And a Mars retrograde puts us into an interesting portal that usually takes 2 years to happen. And then when you follow every sign, it's been a long time since we've had Mars retrograde in Libra. And that's always something exciting to see what will happen there.
Oh, yeah, it definitely is. Because Mars is very happy in Libra. Mars likes to play with knives, and Libra likes to play with knives and bright, shiny things. And so Mars doesn't mind hanging around for a few extra weeks in that Libra energy, and we're definitely going to see a lot of masculinity issues come up with this retrograde, because Libra is a very masculine sign, and Mars, of course, is the planet of masculinity. So it's going to be kind of fun watching how people around us go through positive transformations as they're challenged a little bit on that aggressive side of the personality.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think also feminine energy is about to take off because it's been stuck in Capricorn for 3 months and did a retrograde. And it coming to an Aquarius, I think the ladies are about to see them come out of jail. We're going to see the feminine energy really take off, and I think the ladies are going to be really excited.
Yes, and good old Jupiter down there is going to be expanding it in all directions. So yes, it's going to be an exciting spring. You know, the tail end of winter and the advent of spring is going to be very exciting for sure.
Yeah, and I will say this, and even though I'll say this for the next show, Mars going retrograde, especially having Venus come out of its whole entire retrograde and come out of Capricorn right when Mars goes retrograde, the ladies are going to need to be there for the guys, because Mars retrogrades are not easy on men. Especially very masculine men. I'm a very masculine dude. I usually have difficulties with Mars retrogrades. And I'll be honest, you know, the ladies were there for me on my last Mars retrograde. So I put that out there, that, you know, if you're a dude out there, be prepared and don't be afraid to accept help. Don't be afraid to, you know, have some women help and comfort you. I think that's going to be important, because the women are going to be there and they're going to be rejuiced really well. It's the men now that need to rejuice their batteries with the Mars retrograde, and the men got to look at it like that. You just can't keep going to war and playing video games all day and doing all these things. You're going to have to take a break, you know. So.
And yes, so either that or you're going to get broken, one of the two.
Yes. Well,
David.
Yeah, I guess I'll see you next week for the big week and getting ready for your birthday weekend.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to have a rock and roll show and rock and roll weekend. So I appreciate the camaraderie and all the good chats we've had, and I'll be seeing you in 7 days.
All right, buddy. Yeah, I will see you then.
Take care.
Bye.